for the record, for the state,
Raymond Saldana.
defense. I'm
John-
sorry, state,
Daniel Rosengard.
defense.
And John Foley for the defense, Your Honor.
And Chris Church for the defense.
And are you Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
All right, you may be seated. Are both parties ready to proceed with trial, state?
State's ready.
Defense is ready, Your
All
Honor.
right. All right, we can go off the record. So everyone, in this court, when you're making objections, you do not have to stand. That will make it easier for the court reporter to hear. I don't take that as a sign of disrespect. It just makes it easier for the court reporter to hear. When I was in Judge Noll's court, he said he would start fining people if you stood when you talked, which was very hard to do. So just so you know, please make sure you remain seated. And the other thing, if you're approaching a witness with a document,
Mhm.
you don't have to ask me, may I approach? Because that will make things move quicker. I'm assuming you're approaching with a document, but don't just approach the witness because you want to talk next to them. But if you have a document you want to show them, you don't have to ask the court's permission to approach the witness.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, any other questions?
We just like to invoke the rule, Judge. If we're starting the outcry witness hearing, I'm not sure if that's something that we need witnesses to step up for.
All right, any witnesses here?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's the court's understanding that the witness that you all are calling is the outcry witness, and that both parties are stipulating that this is the outcry witness. Is that correct, state?
Yes, Judge.
Defense, is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And both parties are stipulating that this is the first person that the complainant gave information to about this alleged offense. Is that correct, state?
Yes, Judge.
Defense?
And yes, Your Honor, for clarity, that's the only thing we're stipulating too. There may be some other evidence we need to object to later on.
Okay.
Also, we did have a motion in limine that I think we agreed to everything.
All right, do y'all have copies of the motion in limine?
Yes, Judge.
Judge, regarding the motion in limine, I just need to let the witness who will be testifying know about the agreements that we have. That way it doesn't come out during testimony.
All right, well, as far as the hearing, for the outcry witness, I don't think that qualifies, but
Yes.
for a trial, they
Correct.
would need to.
After the hearing, if I have a few minutes to talk to her.
Yes,
Yeah.
you will. All right, so if you all will give me a copy of your motion in limine, please. Thank you. All right, and with regards to the motion in limine, some of the requests from the defense are that the state not mention certain things during the opening statement. So are you all in agreement with this motion in limine or no?
So if the court like, you can go one by one, so.
Yes.
Explain the reading behind it, so depends on what you.
Sure, Judge. So, most of this is, number one is about expert opinion testimony, and we just want to make sure that any experts that are proffered, that we have, a hearing as to their admissibility before, this put to the jury.
All right, so what I can tell you about motion in limines is people may present whatever opening statements they want, what they expect the evidence to show. And then if the evidence doesn't show that, it doesn't show that. Because opening statements are not evidence. It's just what everybody expects, the evidence to show.
Yes, Judge. And to be clear, the motion is really about the conduct of the trial. It doesn't, and, to make sure that.
So with regards to your defense motion in limine, I want the record to be clear, because in your motion, you state that you don't want these items mentioned during jury selection, which we've already had jury selection. So that's a moot point. Opening statement and closing statement. So with regards to opening statement, I'm not going to preclude the state or the defense from stating what they expect the evidence to show. Otherwise, we should have had a hearing, which no one requested, to have every witness come before the court before actual jury trial for us to determine if an expert is going to testify or not. That was not done. So with regards to opening statements, I'm not going to preclude the state. I'm not going to preclude the defense from saying what they expect the evidence to show. And if the evidence doesn't show during trial, what you stated during opening statement, then it doesn't show it. But as far as during trial, I don't know any facts of this case other than what the allegations are. You all just need to approach before you enter into anything that's in either's motion in limine. And with regards to expert testimony, we'll have a hearing before that witness testifies, and we'll do that outside the presence of the jury.
Yes.
All right, and defense, are you in agreement with the court's ruling?
Yes, sir.
All right, and it goes the same for the state's motion in limine as well. Anything else?
No, Judge.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's call in your outcry witness. And then after that, we'll call the jury in. My understanding is the jury is already present. All right, thank you.
For this outcry hearing, the state calls Alexander Reed.
Okay. Hello, hi. If you'll take a seat here, please. All right, just make sure you keep your voice up so the court reporter can hear and everyone can hear your testimony, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand, and if you'll state your name for the record.
Alexandra Reed.
All right, state.
Thank you, Judge. Hi, Ms. Reed. How old are you?
I am 33 years old.
Okay, so you're older than 18, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so do you know a child under the name of Alexander Reed? Or Alexander Robbins, I'm sorry,
Yes.
or Arabella Robbins? I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
Okay, who is she?
She is my daughter.
Okay, and how old is Arabella?
She is 10 years old.
10 years old, okay, and have you lived with Arabella all her life?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay. So I want to talk about what happened the weekend of February the 7th. Okay? What happened? What happened then,
The weekend,
leading up to?
she was with her father, Jordan Robbins.
Okay, and Jordan Robbins, at the time, were you all living together?
No, sir.
Okay. Why were you all not living together?
We are divorced.
Okay. And as part of the divorce, was there a order in place?
Yes, sir.
And that order, what did it determine?
It determined joint custody where she would go with him every other weekend. But we co-parented, so sometimes she would go on weekends that he'd be out of town, or we worked together on when he got to see her.
Okay, and that weekend, where was Arabella?
She was with Jordan Robbins and I believe his girlfriend, Josefina, and her son at a hotel, I believe they went.
Okay, and that Sunday night, was Arabella taken back to you?
Yes.
Okay, by the way, you want to get your microphone closer so that we can all hear you?
Sorry, is that better?
I think so, yes. So tell us what happened that evening.
That evening that Arabella came back home, she had symptoms that she was sick, COVID-like symptoms. So I tested her for COVID.
Okay, what was her demeanor like that evening?
She was upset that she was distraught. She was making statements about Jordan, like, why doesn't he take care of me? Why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't he protect me? And that she didn't want to go back if she had COVID.
Okay, did you ask her any more questions that evening?
No, I could tell she was very distraught and she was sick. She sounded horrible. So I just told her, "I'm keeping you home from school. Please just get some rest. I'll give you some medicine."
Okay, and on this day, how old was Arabella?
She was 7 years old.
Okay, so the next day, what happened?
The next day, she, of course, was sick and I tended to her, make sure she got fluids, everything, medicine. I touched on how she was feeling on just that outburst of she didn't want to see Jordan. I asked her if she still felt like that, and she said yes.
Okay, what happened next?
I didn't push her. I didn't ask any other questions that day.
What about the evening?
I believe that evening is when she told me that she was having trouble sleeping. And I asked her, well, where do you sleep at when you're with your dad? And she said either on the sofa or in his bed with him. And I asked her why she doesn't sleep in her room. He had just bought her a really nice bed, made her room really nice for her. And she shared that he didn't have lullabies for her or a nightlight, which she's very adamant on her routine of those things. And she said the sofa was fine, it was comfortable. But she said that when she sleeps with Jordan, that it's uncomfortable sometimes. And I
Okay.
asked,
And when she mentioned about the uncomfortable sometimes, did you follow up on that question, on that detail? What did she say?
she said that he gives her hugs. And I questioned that because I told her, well, I give you hugs. Everyone gives you hugs. She told me it's not the same. And I asked her if she could show me.
So when you were talking to her, was she hesitant to tell you?
No, it's like she wanted me to know.
Okay. And when you mentioned about they're not the same and you asked her to show you, how did she show you?
She has a large stuffed animal pillow. And she grabbed that and she said that the pillow was her and that she was Jordan. She grabbed the pillow and squeezed it really tight and started doing a rocking, thrusting motion on the pillow.
Where exactly was the pillow placed?
On her lap.
And where was the thrusting coming from?
From her hips, her private area.
How many times did she thrust the pillow?
She just kept resting it
So was it one time or multiple times?
multiple times.
Okay. Did she say anything else after?
I asked her if she could feel his whole body on, if she could feel his whole body up against her. She said yes. And I asked her if she could feel his, and she said yes. It was hard and it hurt and it was uncomfortable.
You mentioned earlier that can you feel his, and then you answered what she said. Did you say what you meant when you asked the question about clarifying what his whole body meant?
At the time, I think it was just, we knew it was his penis. At that moment, I do not believe she said or identified his like verbally identified.
Did she point at any particular part of his body or her body to demonstrate as?
Her private area.
So when she told you this, did you continue asking more questions?
I believe I asked how long this hug usually lasts.
And what did she say?
A couple minutes. I believe she said a couple minutes.
Did you ever ask her about when did this happen?
She said anytime that she was alone in the house with Jordan.
But she didn't give you any concrete or any,
She didn't give me particular dates or
okay. So what did you do at this point?
I gave her a hug. I told her it's going to be okay. And I may have prayed with her and then told her to get some rest.
Was this the only time where she talked about these instances with dad?
The days that followed this, she shared more.
Okay, when was the more in addition to this?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
When is the next time that she shared more?
To my best recollection, I believe it was the next day.
Okay. And what additional information did she give you the next day?
She shared that these hugs also happen on the couch, on his couch during the daytime. And that evening, she shared that he sometimes helps her in the shower.
Did she give you any details as to what happens in the shower?
Yes, she said that he would go in the shower, or he would go, I guess, in the bathroom. She was in the shower. He was not in the shower with her. But he would ask for her, I guess, washcloth or whatever she was bathing herself with. And he would wash her private area.
Did she say what her private area was?
She said, "Mom, let's just call it a circle."
And what is, just so for proper terms, did she point towards what that private area was?
Yes, her vagina.
Okay. And did she demonstrate to you how he used the washcloth?
Yes.
Can you tell us how she demonstrated to you?
She showed me with her fingers that he would rub her hard and then he would like poke, push with his fingers.
Did she make any motions?
Just like playing the piano kind of thing with just a couple fingers, not all his fingers. I don't know if it's 2 fingers or 3 fingers.
So because everything has been being written down, our court reporter, I need to be able to describe what you're showing. So lift your hand. So your hand is your palm is facing you, your hand is,
Mhm.
and how many fingers did you say?
2 or 3 fingers, not the pinky or the thumb,
And you said it was like playing the piano?
like playing the piano, like poking and pushing.
And why was that significant to you?
Because he used to do that to me when we would have intercourse.
Who is he?
Jordan Robbins,
When you were married?
married before when we were dating, before we were married when we were dating.
Did Arabella tell you how many times this will happen?
No, she did not.
Did you ask any more questions after she told you what she told you?
I don't believe so.
With the last instance, she mentioned to you that it hurt. Did she describe how it felt?
It was uncomfortable. She did not like it. She said that when he was done, he would just hand her a washcloth and tell her to finish up. But that's all he would go in and help her with.
Did she tell you if the defendant would wash anywhere else?
No,
Is there any other details that she told you about that instance?
just that it happened more than once. I know it wasn't just a one-time thing.
Okay. And how old was she when she told you she was still 7?
Yes.
So now let's move on to the last incident here. Did she ever give you any more details as to any other instances?
Yes, she did.
When was that?
Before I had to take her to her SANE interview.
Okay. What did she tell you there?
She shared that when she was naked, about to get into the shower, that Jordan would be sitting on the side of his bed and wave his hand for her to come to him. And that he would either hug her, like her facing him, or I guess her face was over his shoulder, and he'd be doing the hug and the thrusting.
Okay. And did she tell you how she felt?
Uncomfortable, it hurt, it that this time she had said that let's call his PP a triangle, and that she could feel his hard triangle pushing on her circle, which was vagina. And that other times, again, she would be naked and he would do the come to her, and she would be facing like outward, like she had her back against him, and he would be thrusting his triangle on her hiney, which she said, let's call that, I believe it was a rectangle or a square, some other shape. She said that these times when he would let her go, that he would be wet and in turn get her wet. And he would tell her to go and get cleaned up.
And she shared this to you, when? You said before her saying? Okay. Is there any other instances that she shared with you? That you remember?
Not that I am.
You remember making a statement to?
Yeah, yes, I do remember another incident, but you can,
When was that?
um, I know, I believe it was September, maybe. It was around Halloween. And
What year?
2022.
Okay. And it was around Halloween, you said? Well, September would be around Halloween, but what happened then?
She shared with me, she brought up how the previous Halloween she was with Jordan and my husband, myself, and our two kids, we came to Jordan's house to trick or treat, and Arabella was with him. And we asked her if she wanted to come trick or treat with her brother and sister. And she said no, that she wanted to stay with Jordan. And she said that she wanted to come with us, but she had to say no to protect herself. Because she didn't want him to get upset or he would hurt her harder.
Okay, did she tell you what she meant by that?
She said that at his old house, that he had forced his triangle in her circle. And she felt it in her stomach. It was hard and it hurt. And when he was done, that she felt like she had to go to the bathroom. And that she went to the bathroom and that there was blood was in the toilet.
and a little in her underwear. She tried to clean it off so he didn't see and he wouldn't get upset. She said that she felt sick to her stomach, that her stomach hurt. And she went back to bed and pretended to be sleeping.
Did she tell you when this happened?
She said she was 4 years old.
You mentioned that this was at his old house. Is that old house in Bear County?
It's in Universal City. I believe that's Bear County.
Okay. And the other two instances that she was talking about, did she say where it happened? Or the other three instances, I suppose?
His new house.
And is his new house in Bear County?
I believe so.
Okay. So after that September 2022 disclosure, is there anything else that she told you?
I can't remember. I don't believe so.
Okay, just one more question. So when she mentioned well, I'll leave it like that. That's the witness. That's the witness.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Reed, my name is John Floyd. I need to ask you a few questions, okay?
Yes, sir.
I want to kind of pin down kind of an order of events, a timeline to the best of your ability, okay? When was it, do you remember approximately the date when Arabella first made an allegation against her dad?
February of 2022, I believe. It was the weekend that, well, it wasn't the weekend, it was the week after she had come back from his house.
And prior to that, there had already been a CPS investigation regarding neglect alleged against Mr. Robbins.
Yes, sir.
And you talked to her, I'm assuming that would have been back in 2020, correct?
I believe so. That report was made by Dr. Stafford, her pediatrician.
But you would have talked to your daughter about that. That's how it went to the doctor, correct?
She did not that report, I took Arabella to the doctor and she made that outcry to the doctor in the office. She had not told me anything prior to that.
And so then in February of 2022, so I'm clear, that's when you first heard any allegation about them sleeping in the same bed and what you described earlier about his triangle touching her circle. Is that right?
I knew they slept together, and Jordan and I had talked about how she was getting older and how she really needed to sleep in her own bed. And he had agreed that, you know, he was going to get her a nice bed and get her room all fixed up, and that he was going to work on that. But that date, that was the first time she had ever told me what was going on in his bed.
And in fact, he did all those things. You testified earlier that he had set up her room, he had a bed, all of that, but she was scared to sleep alone in her room.
She wanted lullabies and a nightlight, but he would make her sleep with him when they were alone.
Okay. And so the extent of the conversation on the first date of the outcry was that he was hugging her in bed and that his triangle was touching her circle. Is that right?
That first day, I don't believe she used triangle and circle, but the context, yes, that's correct.
And did you guys ever discuss body parts? Did you ever talk about using shapes before?
No, we've talked about body parts, hoo-ha being vagina and pee-pee being penis. But when she outcried, she used shapes. That was the first time I had ever heard shapes be used.
Okay. And so your testimony earlier that the next day is when she gave you more details.
I believe so.
And you were talking to her about what she had said the day before.
I was asking her if she still felt the same way about Jordan.
And that's when she talked about the details you testified earlier to about these things happening in the shower. Is that right?
Yes, the next day she shared about the couch and the shower.
That there was time when there were hugs on the couch.
Yes.
And when his same kind of language was used, that his triangle touched her circle.
Yes, and her hiney that was either a square or a rectangle.
And she's told you.
Or, sorry, I don't know that. No, that wasn't that day. The hiney part wasn't that day. I apologize.
Okay. So, and just to be clear, so that on the second day, you were talking to her about what she had said before about him hugging her and being uncomfortable sleeping in the bed with them, right?
The second day is when she told me. The first day that she came back, I didn't. The first day she came back, I saw that she was distraught and sick, and I just let her go to sleep. It was the second day is when she told me the first incident. And then the next day after that incident is when she shared a couch in the bath, I believe.
And so we're clear, she told you on the second day that that he would help her when she was taking a shower, right? And that he would wash her her private parts, the genitals, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you understood that to be her vagina, right?
Yes, sir.
And that he touched her vagina with his fingers.
Yes, sir.
In fact, you used a motion with your hands like it was playing a piano. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And is your understanding that he would push his fingers into her vagina? Is that what she told you?
No, she did not. She did not. She said it was the area. She didn't say he pushed his fingers in her circle, just around there.
Okay, so just so we're clear, I think you testified earlier that when he would wash his private area, her private area, she wanted to call it a circle. Right?
Yes.
And that he would rub his hands and poke and push with his fingers. And you said 2 or 3 fingers.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that what she told you that day?
I believe so.
And so based on what she told you, you believe that he had pushed his fingers into her vagina.
What she showed me that he was doing to her, he had done to me, and that wasn't fingering. And so I knew what she was showing me when she showed me with her fingers. It was like this foreplay that he liked to do right before he stuck his penis in my vagina.
And, and,
Or
and that's okay, based on your recollections of your relationship with him. You understood that he was putting his fingers on her vagina?
in that area, and he wasn't.
Let me ask it this way. Did you understand that his fingers would have penetrated the lips of her vagina?
Could I have parties approach, please?
Yeah. Okay, Ms. Reed, just maybe we can kind of wrap this part of it up. So I want to ask you again, what exactly did Arabella tell you happened to her when she was in the shower?
She said that he would grab her washcloth from her hands and rub her private area and push and poke her circle.
Okay. And that was the extent of what she told you. You didn't ask her any more questions?
From my recollection. Yes, I believe that's all from that's what I can remember.
Okay. We talked about earlier that, I guess, what did you do with that information?
I reported it to I believe I called the first officer I spoke with, and he gave me direction to go to the church police station.
Okay. And so we talked about earlier, that's when you took Arabella in for the SANE examination?
No, sir, not at that point in time. That did not happen till I believe the next month.
So you think about a month passed between the time that Arabella outcried to you about the allegations in the shower and the time she did her SANE exam?
I believe so. I know appointments.
All right, so everyone, this is an outcry hearing. The only question is, you both have stipulated that this is the outcry witness. The only question is, what was she told? That's it. Anything else, you all, if there's an issue regarding her credibility or whatever you all want to do, That's for cross-examination in front of the jury. The jury is already here. They've been here since 9:30 because everybody told me this hearing wasn't going to take that long. So the only issue is what she told to her. The whole thing about who did she call after she heard this, that's something that will go before the jury. She's just an outcry witness according to both parties. So what did the alleged complainant tell her? That's it.
Your Honor, I would ask for some latitude. I mean, the state was allowed to get into quite a bit of background setting and narrative leading up to these discussions.
No,
We should be able to clarify the timeline.
Ask her the timeline when she was, if you want to ask her when the complainant told her this, fine. But as far as who this witness told after she was told that, that's not relevant for an outcry hearing. An outcry hearing is just who is the first adult that was told and what did they tell them? That's it. If I'm wrong in my interpretation of the law, let me know. But my understanding, an outcry witness is the first adult that was told.
That's
And
correct.
what did they tell them? If I'm wrong, let me know. But there is not any of this latitude about who did she tell after the complainant told her something. That's something for cross-examination in front of jury. This is just an outcry hearing. And if I'm wrong in my interpretation of what the law is, let me know. I am willing to accept if I'm wrong. But if not, the only thing this witness is testifying for at this outcry hearing is what she was told. And what she is told is supposed to be related to the allegations that are in the indictment. And my understanding is that both parties have agreed if she was told something that was not in the allegations within the indictment, she's going to be instructed that she's not to discuss that. So that's where we are.
And Your Honor, I agree with your assessment about the law. The question is what testimony that she is going to offer as hearsay.
Which is what the complainant told her that are in the allegations of the indictment. Anything that's outside the allegations that are in the indictment, both parties have already agreed that she is not to testify to that. So that's what we're looking at. Now, if you want to pin her down on what date, fine. This was told to her, fine. If you want to pin her down on what specifically was said, fine. But anything outside that, then we're not in an outcry hearing. Where we are is everybody is testing out a witness before they're before a jury. So ask questions that are specifically for an outcry hearing.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, that's what I'm attempting to do.
All right.
So what I'm trying to understand, just so that we can get through this hearing, is there was about a month that passed between the time she first told you about the allegations and going in for the same exam, right?
I believe so.
And that's when she told you, and you had already reported this to police and gone through all that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that prior to the same exam, you had another discussion with her? I believe that was your testimony earlier, is that before the same exam, there was another set of allegations that came out.
If that's what I just stated, I believe so.
Okay. And then about the Halloween incident, when I guess the final round of allegations came out. That was about 8 months later. Is that right? 6, 8 months later.
I believe so.
Okay. And again, you asked her at that point what had happened. If she was afraid to go to Dad's house for trick or treating.
No, she went to Dad's house. That it shared a memory of when that past Halloween she was at Dad's house, and myself, my husband, and my 2 other kids, we went to his house to trick or treat. And we asked her if she wanted to come with us trick or treating. And she said no, that she wanted to stay there. She said that she had to say no to protect herself because she didn't want Jordan to be mad, so she wouldn't get hurt harder.
Okay. And forgive me, but this was after she did her SANE exam, right? This is quite a bit after that.
I believe so.
Okay, just
yes.
so I'm clear. And in that particular situation, she said that he forced his triangle and she felt something in her stomach.
She said he forced his triangle in her circle and she could feel it in her stomach. And that it was hard and it hurt.
I'd pass the witness, Your Honor.
Other questions?
All right. All right, any argument from either side?
Well, I guess because it's my request, I'll go first. Just, Your Honor, the offenses that she's being charged with, he's being charged with are in the indictment. It's an aggravated sex assault of a child, indecency contact. and
Okay,
menacing.
so here's the thing, slow down so the court reporter can pick it up and you all can remain seated so the court reporter can hear.
So this is 3 counts, aggravated assault with a child and indecency contact, 2 counts. The manner and means are displayed in the indictment. Everything that she's saying, she indicated that she is the first adult. Arabella was under the age of 18. And everything that she has articulated is regarding this particular indictment. There's nothing outside that I see that she has testified to that are not in the indictment. So we ask that the court grant the motion and allow the witness to testify to the hearsay statements made by Arabella.
All right, defense.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
No
Take me a
problem.
minute. Your Honor, the outcry statute is very clear. It's the first person that she gave details of the sexual of the offense, and in this case, it's a sexual assault. The very first statements that were made were made in February, from what I understand, of 2020. There was a long passage of time. Police investigated. She had a SANE exam done. So after that, we have all sorts of testimony being given to other individuals about this offense.
All right, so both parties stipulated that this was the outcry witness.
Yes, Your Honor. And what I'm trying to do, I think it needs to be narrowed down to the first set of allegations that we heard from, as far as her hearsay testimony goes. The rest of it surely can come in at trial from the witness herself.
So which statement are you saying that this witness had made? And I'm sorry, you may step down. Which statement are you saying that this witness made that she is the first person that the complainant outcried to? Which statement?
It would be our assertion, Your Honor, that it would be the February 2020 statements. 2022 statements that were made over a course of 2 days, where she alleged that Mr. Robbins was hugging her, that she could feel his triangle against her circle, and the incident in the shower that she reported the next day, when she said that he touched her with his fingers and that he touched his vaginas with his fingers and poked and prodded, and that testimony. I think anything after that, Your Honor, falls outside of the outcry statute.
All right. Well, with regard to that, it will then depend, because I did hear testimony from this witness that the complainant saw a sane person, or it was reported. Am I correct?
Yes.
So then whether she testifies to more than that will depend on exactly what was said to the same person. State?
Right, and at this point, so there's new details that are provided, so that would be a new outcry. So there was details at the beginning that were made regarding being in the bed, and then the next one was being in the bathroom, and then the next one was being where she was naked in the bathroom, and he sits her on the lap, and then the last one was the aggravated count, which was when she was 4 years old. So these are instances of new with different details, and she is the first adult. So this is why we believe that she is the outcry witness for those 4 different instances.
Well, the problem is the court doesn't know that because I don't know what was said to the same person. What I have is you have this witness. The defense appears now to be stipulating that the February 2022 date, she's the first person that she told that to. And then there seems to be an intervening statement between the complainant and a nurse. I don't know what was said with regards to that. So all I know for sure is that the February 2022 date, that's the first that was said. So in order for me to make a ruling on whether or not she can testify to anything else, I would need to know what was said to the same person. For example, if the details that she's provided on other dates was not said to the same person, then she's the outcry for that.
Well,
But yes,
in that case, then we would like to introduce the same records into evidence. We did file a business record affidavit within 14 days. So the court can make that distinction and see exactly what the child told the same to show that there was nothing regarding the allegations in September that she's talking about.
all right, the problem with the court allowing that is even though the same records you filed it as a business records affidavit, there's still hearsay within the business records affidavit. And I'm assuming, I know you're not offering it for the truth of the matter asserted. You're just offering it to say, this is what she told this person. I still won't know the entirety of it because I'll need the same person to come in to say that this is a synopsis or it's not a synopsis.
So then in that case, Judge, in the alternative, what we would ask is to to defer your ruling on that last instance until the same nurse
Yes,
testifies, so we can rule out that, and then at that point, maybe we can make a ruling on this.
yes. So the testimony of the February 2022 date, that witness can testify about that. And then state, of course, if you wish to recall the witness after other evidence is presented to the court, then I will consider that. So for now, she can testify to the February 2022 date. All right, Deputy Laura, if you can line the jurors up and state you want to speak to your
Yes.
witness.
And then just to get clarification, the statements that were made before the saying, are those also, is she allowed to testify to that?
She's allowed to testify to any statements that are in the indictment that are allegations that were made before the conversation with the same nurse.
Thank you.
In the name and by authority of the state of Texas, the grand jury of Bexar County, state of Texas, duly organized, impaneled, and sworn as such at the November term AD 2022 of the 227th Judicial District Court of said county and said court at said term, do present in and to said court that in the county and state aforesaid and interior to the presentment of this indictment, count one. On or about the 23rd day of August 2022, Jordan Robbins, hereinafter referred to as the defendant, did intentionally and knowingly cause the sexual organ of Arabella Robbins, a child who is younger than 14 years, to contact the sexual organ of the defendant. Count two. On or about the 3rd day of October 2022, Jordan Robbins, hereinafter referred to as the defendant, did intentionally and knowingly engage in sexual contact with Arabella Robbins, a female child younger than 17 years, by touching part of the genitals of Arabella Robbins with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. Count three. On or about the 23rd day of January 2021, Jordan Robbins, hereinafter referred to as a defendant, did intentionally and knowingly engage in sexual contact with Arabella Robbins, a female child younger than 17 years, by causing Arabella Robbins to touch the part of the genitals of the defendant with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person, against the peace and dignity of the state, signed by the foreman of the grand jury.
Mr. Robbins, to each count, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
All right, you may be seated. State, do you have opening statements?
You, Judge. One of the most important parts of being a father is to provide protection and a safe place for your children. But what happens when the father engages in inappropriate sexual acts and disguises them as innocent acts like a hug or bathing your child? What does a child do? How does a child react? This case is about a now 10-year-old girl named Arabella, who was sexually abused and placed in fear by the defendant since she was about 4 years old. Arabella lives with her mother, Alexandra, and her stepfather. The defendant is her biological father. In this trial, you're going to hear testimony from Alexandra, the outcry witness, the first adult that Arabella told about the abuse. And she's going to talk to you about how she met the defendant, how they were on and off relationship, how her pregnancy with Arabella led to them to get married, and that led to a divorce, that led to co-parenting, starting when she was 2 years old. That led to an attempt to modify the custody order in 2020 by Alexandra, and how in February of 2022, when Arabella was 7 years old, disclosed the abuse. Arabella's outcry is incremental, okay? She gradually discloses more details as time went by, and the triggers reminded her about the nightmares that she endured with her father. Alexandra will also testify about the steps that she took as a mother after she learned about the abuse. Now, I anticipate defense is going to try to discredit her, but all I'm asking is that you wait to hear all the evidence before making your decision. You're also going to hear from 2 officers from Schertz Police. The first officer is McAllister, who was the first officer that speaks with Alexandra when she reports the abuse, and then you will also hear from a second officer, Danielle Apgar, who also spoke with Alexandra days later when she learned new information from Arabella. We are not going to be calling the detective that was assigned to this case due to the detective no longer working with Schertz PD for matters unrelated to this case. We also anticipate that you will hear testimony from Arabella's pediatrician, Dr. Sarah Stamford, her counselor, Kelly Bernstein, a forensic interviewer, and Dr. Natalie Kassoon, who was present during Arabella's sexual abuse, medical evaluation for sexual abuse. And of course, we also anticipate that you are going to hear from Arabella herself. At the end of this trial, the evidence will show beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant made deliberate choices, each leading to the crimes that he's being charged today. They not only violated the trust that Arabella had on him, but has caused her to be terrified of him. When all the evidence is presented and you hear the testimony from all the witnesses, we're going to ask that you reach a unanimous verdict and you find him guilty. Thank you.
Defense, do you have any opening statements?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that the evidence will be unequivocal that Jordan Robbins did not commit this offense. In fact, we believe the evidence is going to show that this is just the sort of case that causes a man to be falsely accused and wrongfully committed to prison. We talked about during voir dire. This is just the sort of case that would cause someone who is wrongfully accused to be convicted of a crime they did not commit. And you'll see why. I think Mr. Saldana was clear. We will try to discuss all the facts of this case regarding the mom in this case, Alexandra. You're going to hear as this case unfolds that this couple was in a long-standing contested custody dispute. You'll hear that whenever mom, Alexandra, didn't get her way, she starts making up stories to try to get her way. You'll see this pattern. It's going to happen more than once. Initially, in 2020, she tried to get custody of out of Arabella from Mr. Robbins by saying that he was neglectful, that he didn't feed her. Not substantiated. It wasn't true. It didn't work. She let him go back over to the house. A year passes. 2022 comes around. COVID's going on, right? You'll hear that she was hypersensitive to COVID, or at least when it came to Mr. Robbins. She did whatever she wanted, it seems like, but he had to follow all the COVID restrictions. And a time came where Arabella was sick. She immediately thought it was COVID, starts ginning up her story again. Reports it to the doctor that he's being neglectful, that he's exposing his child to his family, who you'll also hear from. CPS investigates that, or begins to investigate it. There's nothing there again, right? So that's when she starts ginning up the allegations of sexual abuse. So yeah, we believe that Arabella, and the evidence will show that she is a victim. I think there'll be no doubt by the time we finish this case that she has been victimized. She's been used as a tool to alienate Mr. Robbins from his daughter, to strip him of his custody. He hadn't seen her in years now. To gain control and have things her way. And you'll see this pattern. Now, Arabella, we expect will testify that these things happened. But you'll see at the passage of time, the allegations first came out when she was about 6. Now she's 10. She has been she's talked to her mom a whole lot during this time. We believe it's going to appear and it's going to be substantiated that mom, whether it was intentional or not, was coaching this child, making things worse and worse and worse. And she used these allegations as a strategy in the family law case. All right, the custody case. You'll hear one example. There was one instance where they were set to have a hearing in family court about this issue about trying to strip him, Mr. Jordan Robbins, of his custody. While he is sitting on Zoom for the hearing, the cops rush in to do a search warrant in his house. Right? Right in the middle of this hearing. I'm going to tell you, you'll also hear that that Alexandra, the mother, that she called the police. She emailed the police dozens of times trying to steer their investigation. Not only that, when the littlest things would pop up, she'd call the police on Mr. Robbins, trying to steer this investigation. You'll also hear she did the same thing with the doctors that were involved. Most likely you're going to get all the medical records in this case, and they will show it was mom communicating to the doctor about all these things all the time, trying to gin up these allegations so she could create a record to end up here in court. Well, probably ended up in the family court. You're going to hear from Mr. Robbins' family. You'll probably hear from him as well about exactly what was going on during this time, right? What was going on, how Alexandra, the mother, behaved during this time, what she was doing to try to get complete control over her child and to get complete custody. We'll talk about the household that Mr. Robbins provided for his child. You'll see that he was not neglected. He was not abused. That child loved to be around him and his family. You'll hear that there are witnesses who were over at his house all the time, including his girlfriend, Josephina, who lived with him. Well, not lived with him. She came over and spent the night quite a bit with her son. No one ever saw anything inappropriate. And I'll tell you this much. Had any of these people seen anything, it would have been reported. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of testimony, we believe that you'll have absolutely no option but to deliberate this case, take a look at all the evidence, and find Mr. Jordan Robbins not guilty of this offense because he didn't do it. Thank you.
All right, state, call your first witness.
State calls Alexander Reed.
If you take a seat here, please. All right, can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand if you'll state your name for the record and make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Alexandra Reed.
All right, state.
Good morning, Ms. Reed. How are you doing today?
Good morning. As best as I can be.
Hey, Ms. Reed, what do you live here in Bexar County?
Yes, sir.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Okay. And who do you live with?
My husband and my 3 children and our dog,
Okay, who is your husband?
Jason Reed.
You said you have 3 children?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, can you hear me? Deputy, can you higher the volume just a little bit on the mic? Test. Test. Test 1, 2, 4. Test. Test. Okay, well, so how many children, you said you had 3 children, who are your children?
Arabella is my oldest, and my middle daughter is Adelie, and my youngest is Asher.
Okay. And Adelie and Asher, are they, is Jason their father?
Yes,
Okay, so Arabella then is from a different relationship.
yes, sir.
Okay, so who is the biological father of Arabella?
Jordan Robbins.
Okay, do you see Jordan Robbins in this courtroom?
Yes, sir.
Can you please identify him with an article of clothing?
He is wearing a baby blue button-up shirt with a navy coat.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant in court. Ms. Reed, how did you meet the defendant?
We went to high school together, but we didn't really hang out in high school. We, I guess, connected online. I believe it was through Facebook at the time.
Where did you go to high school?
Livonia High School.
So you knew him from high school and then you reconnected with him. So did you talk to him during high school?
No, I don't believe I talked to him in high school.
Okay. How long did it take for you all to connect through social media?
It Livonia is a small town, so it was more like everyone knew everyone. And so I knew I was friends with him because we went to the same high school, but maybe like likes, posts, we messaged. And I don't even remember how we started dating. If he asked me, I can't remember.
Okay. And how long ago was this? Roughly a year? Can you give me a year roughly?
Maybe 2010 or 2011. I honestly can't remember.
Okay. So did you all start dating when you all connected?
Yes.
Okay. So how would you describe the relationship?
We would date on and off.
Okay. So how did it lead up to the marriage?
I found out I was pregnant and he proposed to me.
Okay. Do you remember what year you all got married?
I believe it was 2013 or 14.
Okay, was that after, so, you got pregnant, you said, right? Was that Arabella?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so was the marriage before or after Arabella was born?
It was before Arabella was born, but I was pregnant with Arabella when we got married.
Okay. What year, what's Arabella's date of birth?
June 25th, 2014.
Okay, so Arabella is born, do you all move in together?
Yes.
Okay, and where did you all live?
We lived in a house in Universal City.
Okay, and is that house in Bear County?
I believe so.
Okay, and how long did the marriage last?
A little over 2 years.
Okay. Did you all get divorced?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what happened when you got divorced? Who did Arabella go with? What were the arrangements?
I had primary custody of Arabella and the court documents had Jordan seeing her every other weekend. But because she was under the age of 3, there was like certain stipulation because she was still very little. But at the time, Jordan's work would call him out of town a lot, and so I knew he wouldn't be able to follow the agreement, so I worked with.
Objection, Your Honor. This is irrelevant.
All right. Relevancy?
I'll move on, Mitch.
All right, objection is sustained.
So every other weekend, Arabella would go with the defendant, with Mr. Robbins. Was that the arrangement that you all had?
The arrangement we had, I worked with him when he was in town to see her.
Okay. So what did he work at?
He worked with UPS.
Okay, so his schedule, was the schedule changing?
Sometimes he would have to fly to other locations in the United States.
Okay, so how would you describe the co-parenting at the time?
Good.
Tell me more, what do you mean by good?
We worked together, had birthday parties, we went to events together for her.
Okay, was there any issues with where Arabella was gonna stay on a certain weekend? Any conflicts? And if there was, how would you all resolve them?
She would always stay with me. And if he asked for her and we didn't have plans like going to the movies or taking her to a certain event or birthday parties, then I would always work with him for her to stay with him.
Did you want Arabella to see the defendant?
Yes,
So for several years, you all co-parent, right?
yes, sir.
And then what year did you meet your current husband?
2017, the end of 2017.
Okay, did you move in together with your?
Yes,
Okay, 2017. So at that point, did Arabella move in with him as well?
yes. He moved in 2018. I met him in 2017.
Okay, so around this time now, in 2018, Arabella was living with your husband. So she would be, every other weekend, she would be going to different houses.
Yes, sir.
And would Arabella spend the night at Mr. Robbins' house?
Yes, she would.
So I want to talk about what happened. Okay, so at this point, where was Mr. Robbins living when you were co-parenting?
At the house in Universal City.
Was that the same house that you were living in at before during the marriage?
Yes.
So he kept that house.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and where did you go?
I went to my mother's house, my mother and my stepdad in Livonia.
In Arabella as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you live in Lavernia up until 2018?
No, sir. Then I got a house in Converse, Texas with Arabella.
Okay, and what year was that?
I believe it was 2016.
So 2016, you moved to Converse. 2018, he moves in with you all, right? This your husband.
He moved in 2018.
2018.
Yes.
And did Mr. Robbins continue living in the Universal City house?
He lived there until I believe it was 2020, end of 2020.
And where did he move in 2020?
A house in Shirts, Texas.
And the house in Shirts, is that in Bear County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how does Arabella distinguish those houses?
Old house and new house.
Okay, so the old house meaning Universal City,
Yes, sir.
the new house being the Shirts, Texas house.
Yes.
Okay. So you said he moved in September of 2020 to the new house?
I believe so.
Okay, so I want to talk about what happened, what's going on in 2020. Was there a modification filed on the custody case?
Yes, sir.
And who filed that modification?
I did.
Okay, can you tell us why you filed the modification?
I had concerns with her well-being when she was with Jordan.
Okay. Regarding your concerns, what kind of concerns were they?
Drinking when he was with her.
Okay, anything regarding the health of Arabella?
She would come back very tired, bags under her eyes, looked like she hadn't bathed. And she was hungry and thirsty.
Okay, did you do anything about that? What did you end up doing when you saw these things?
I would call Jordan. And ask him to.
I'm sorry, I think this is hearsay, Your Honor.
Well, it's a statement by a party opponent. If it's Jordan that told her something.
All right, move on to the next question, please.
So. Did you ever seek any medical treatment for Arabella?
I would contact her pediatrician.
Okay, and what did you tell the pediatrician?
I would tell her the concerns of the fatigue and just her uncleanliness and
Okay, so you relate these concerns to the pediatrician.
yes, sir.
Okay. Did this play a part in your decision to modify the custody case?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what was the outcome of the modification?
Jordan came over to my house and spoke with myself and my husband, and we came to an agreement on how we were going to co-parent.
So you talked it over.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what happened to the modification? Was it withdrawn?
I believe so.
Okay. Was there anything different?
No, sir.
So this was in 2020,
Yes, sir.
right? Now, I want to talk about February of 2022, okay? Tell us what, that particular weekend, tell us what was going on. That you know.
Arabella was with Jordan, and she shared that he and his girlfriend, Josefina, and her son went to a hotel that weekend.
Okay. Josefina, you said is Mr. Robbins' girlfriend,
Yes, sir.
okay? And what happened at the hotel?
She shared with me that
So, go ahead.
I was gonna object to hearsay, Your Honor.
I will ask the question again, Judge.
All right, thank you.
So, do you know what happened at the hotel? Do you know?
I don't know what happened at the
Okay.
hotel.
When Arabella came to you, was it a Sunday night?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this was during the transfer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so on Sunday night in February, how would you describe Arabella that night?
Distraught, sick. She sounded horrible, just all congested. It was during COVID, so I thought that she had COVID.
Was she crying? Was she emotional?
Yes, she was distraught, very distraught.
Okay, and what did you do?
I tested her for COVID, and I told her that if she does have COVID, that she was gonna have to go back with Jordan. And she got very upset and said that,
Remember,
oh,
Go ahead.
I was
sorry,
gonna object to hearsay, Your Honor.
yes, Judge, I'm gonna rephrase the question.
All right.
So you tested her for COVID, right? At that moment, when you mentioned what you mentioned, was she still distraught?
yes,
Was she, as I mentioned earlier, was she crying?
yes.
Okay. And when you mentioned that, did she immediately give you an answer?
She immediately started making statements about Jordan.
Okay, so you said that if she had COVID, she would have to go back with him. What did she say?
She said that, why doesn't he protect me? Why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't he take care of me? And that she didn't want to go back to his house.
Did you ask her any more questions at the time?
No, I did not.
So what happened that evening? Did she go to sleep?
I told her, I was like, you're okay, it's okay, just go to sleep. She didn't have COVID. I knew it was maybe just a cold or something. So I told her I would keep her home from school and just to get some rest.
You said it was late. Do you remember the time?
I do not remember the time.
Was it dark outside?
I believe so.
So what happened the next day?
The next day, I kept her home from school and gave her medicines and took care of her. And I asked her about what she shared with me the night before.
So you revisited, was this during the day, during the afternoon? When was this?
I can't recall.
Okay. So when you revisited what happened the night before, how was her demeanor?
I could tell she wanted to tell me something. And
How can you tell that you wanted to tell me something? Can you give me a little more details?
she just looked like she was trying to find the words to tell me.
Did she eventually tell you something?
Yes,
What did she say?
because I asked her if she still felt the same way about Jordan. She said yes. And I could tell she really didn't get rest the night before, and I asked her where she sleeps when she's at her dad's house. And she said on the sofa or in his bed. And I asked why, because she has her own room at his house.
So how do you know that she has her own room at his house?
He shared that information with me.
Okay, so it isn't because you've been there.
I have not been
Okay.
inside. I've been inside his house in the hallway, but that's as far as I've been.
So because you were under the impression that she has her own room, this didn't really make sense to you.
Correct.
Okay, so what happened next?
I asked, why doesn't she sleep in her room, in her new bed? And she said that she doesn't have lullabies or nightlight in that room, but she's very adamant about having those things. And I asked, well, is the sofa comfortable? And she said that it's okay. And then I asked if Jordan's bed was comfortable. And she said that it's uncomfortable and she sleeps there.
Does Arabella have her own bedroom in your house?
Yes, sir.
Where does she usually sleep at your house?
In her bed, in her bedroom.
So when you were asking her about the sofa and about the bed, were you trying to make conversation with her? Or why did you ask that?
Because I could tell she hadn't gotten rest and she looked just tired, and so I asked those questions of where she sleeps at his house, if she had just gotten back. And
So when she told you that his bed was not comfortable, did she say anything else?
I asked why it was uncomfortable for her. And she said it's because he gives her hugs.
How did you interpret hugs to be?
Like a hug. Um, um, I asked her, I told her I didn't understand that I give her hugs and everyone gives her hugs. What did she mean? She got upset. She said it was not the same as when Jordan gives her hugs.
Did you ask her to clarify?
Yes. I asked her if she could show me.
Did she show you?
Yes.
How?
She has a big, one of those like giant stuffed animal pillows. And she grabbed that. And she said that that was her and that she was Jordan. She put the pillow on her lap and she grabbed it and just squeezed really hard and was just doing this rocking, thrusting motion with her hip to the pillow.
How many times was she thrusting?
A lot, more than once. It was just a constant thrust.
Did she say anything else?
I asked her if she could feel his entire body on her. And she said yes. And I asked her, can you feel his? And she said, yes, it's hard and it hurts.
When you asked her, can you feel his, and she answered, did you ever say what you meant?
I don't believe I said, I just more gestured it.
And did she immediately respond to your answer? To your question?
Yes, she immediately said yes. And it was hard and it hurt and it made her feel uncomfortable.
Did she say anything else?
I asked her, how long do these hugs usually last? She said a couple minutes. And then he would just let her go.
Did she say where she's at when these hugs happen?
It was in his bed at that time.
Did she have her own way of describing these hugs?
I believe she said that Jordan called them funnies.
That night or that day when you were talking to her, and when she was giving you these details, how was she reacting?
She did not want me to call Jordan and tell him what she was sharing with me.
So when you're getting this information, was there anybody, or what was your reaction? How did it make you feel?
I was in shock.
How did this conversation end?
Gave her a hug. I told her she's okay. And I prayed over her. And I told her to try to get some rest.
Because you told her to try to get some rest, is it safe to say that this was at night?
I believe so.
Monday night, right?
I believe so.
So what happens the next day?
The next day, she shared with me that The hugs also occur on the couch in the daytime.
Did she elaborate as to how they happened in the couch?
She said that sometimes he would call her over, just wave her over to him. And again, proceed to hug her.
What about that evening?
That evening, she had already taken a shower, already in her pajamas. And came upstairs, and I was brushing her hair, and she told me that she had to share something with me. That Jordan would help her in the shower.
Did she tell you which bathroom she was taking a shower?
I believe it was his shower in his house.
And when she was telling you this, did you ask any follow-up questions?
I asked her, how did he help her?
What did she say?
She would be in the shower. Sometimes she would be pretty much done. And he would come in and ask for her washcloth and he would rub her private area hard and rough, and it hurt. And that he would poke and push with his fingers in her. She said, let's call her hoo-ha circle. And so she said that he would do that to her circle,
What is a hoo-ha?
her vagina.
When she told you about poking and pushing with his fingers, did you ask for clarification?
I don't believe so. I don't, I'm sorry.
Did she demonstrate?
Yes, she did. She showed me with her fingers. It's not her whole, it's not the whole hand. It's just either like two or three. It's like kind of like playing the piano.
Did she say playing the piano? Kind of like playing the piano?
She may have.
Did she say if he would do it with the washcloth or without it?
I believe she said it was with the washcloths.
And the poking and the pushing, did she say whether it caused her any pain?
She said it hurt and it made her feel very uncomfortable.
When Arabella showers at your house, do you bathe her?
No, sir.
Who bathes her?
She bathes herself. Sometimes I assist her with her hair if she got mud or dirt in her hair, something like that from playing outside.
To your knowledge, does your husband ever assist her?
No, sir, he does not.
So he was pushing and poking with the washcloth, and she gave you the movement of like playing a piano with her fingers. Why is that so significant to you?
Because Jordan,
Objection, Your Honor, this is irrelevant.
Relevancy?
Your Honor, this proves one of the elements of the offense as to why we're trying to prove, because she had.
Overruled.
Your Honor, we'd also object on grounds of 403. This is the prejudicial effect of this particular testimony outweighs its probative values.
All right, if parties can come forward. All right, you can ask your question.
I'm gonna ask you the question again. The movement of the fingers as it's playing the piano, why was that so significant to you?
because Jordan used to do that same movement to me right before he would have intercourse with me.
And was this when you used to be married with him?
When we were dating and when we were married,
So you recognized that movement before.
I do.
Do you know if Arabella knew what that meant?
No, she did not.
Did she seem confused when she was showing you?
Yes.
So when you received this new information, what did you do next?
I contacted the officer that I spoke with about the first incident, I believe.
And let me pause you there. I did not ask you this. I went into the second instance, but when you received the information about the first instance, about the hugs that evening, what did you do? Did you report it?
Yes, sir, I did.
Who did you report it to?
I believe it was CPS and then the police.
Okay. Is there anyone else that you may have told?
Possibly her pediatrician.
Okay. So you reported it to the officer responded. After this new information, which was the next day, that evening, you reached out to that same officer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what did you do, without telling me what he told you, right? What did you do next?
I went to Shirts police station to make an official statement.
Excuse me, anyone who has their phone on, you need to turn it off. All right, thank you. All right, everyone, let's take a short break. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Everyone, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard some testimony on this case. You're not allowed to start deliberating. You're not allowed to start talking amongst yourself about this case. Does everyone understand? Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? All right, everyone, please rise.
And if the alert is something that just, if outside of his control, so there make no inference from that or use it as any evidence.
I guess, all right, I will.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, let's bring the jurors in.
All right, for the jury.
Oh, please be seated. We stand for you all. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with the testimony, when we left off, some persons had phones turning on in court, as you know. And then there was a signal that was going off and Mr. Robbins said, "Judge, I'm sorry, that was my ankle monitor." This is what I want to tell you about that. In Bexar County, there are so many people who have pending charges, and just as a condition for them to be on bond, they give them monitors. So you are not to consider that as any evidence at all. Does everyone understand? So it's not a part of this case. So you are not to hold it against him. You are not to consider that whatsoever. Can everyone do that? All right. Welcome. State, you may continue.
Thank you, Judge. So you received this new information. Did you make a report, any report on this information?
Yes, sir, I did.
And where did you go?
I went to Shirts police station.
Okay, after this information, did you ever get anything else from Arabella?
After this information, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Sir, I did.
So was there an investigation that was conducted?
Yes, sir.
A criminal investigation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As part of the criminal investigation, were you required to take Arabella to different places?
Yes, sir, I was.
And where was that?
I had to take her to Child Safe and the Center of Miracles.
Do you know what child safe is?
A place where they have professionals there. They can ask Arabella the questions of what she had shared with me.
Would that be a forensic interview?
I believe so.
Okay. And Center for Miracles, so what is that?
That is where they physically examined Arabella.
So it's like a hospital?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you know as the same?
I believe. I'm sorry, it's been a long time.
That's fine. If you don't remember, perfectly fine, right? That's fine. So what else did Arabella disclose to you?
She disclosed before.
One second. So before the saying was performed
Yes, sir.
that morning, did Arabella give you any more details?
Yes, sir, she did.
And where were you all at?
I believe we were at our house when she shared the information.
Okay.
I am so sorry. Yeah. So everyone, there appears to be a malfunction. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have us go ahead and take our lunch break now. And I'll have you all come back at 1 o'clock and we'll start again at 1 o'clock. You've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to discuss any information about this case with each other or with anyone else. You're not allowed to view anything. Make sure that your badges are visibly displayed, because sometimes when you're walking around the courthouse, people will be talking about different cases. They may be talking about this case. And I want to be assured that everything that you are to know about this case is to come from inside this courtroom and nowhere else. Does everyone understand? All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.